Hi everyone, David here, and man oh man, did I seem to strike a chord. As somebody who is an enthusiast and loves cars and is of the culture, I decided to post on several of my social medias and ask what you thought the worst car argument was, or the worst take about cars you've ever heard. And yes, I have done this before, and it was a lot of fun, but I figured I could try this out as a series, as some fun interaction between you and me, and debate some of these hot takes. So without further ado, cutting straight to the chase, let's get to arguing. Brianna says that there's a culture and good community behind takeovers.
Are you serious?
I don't think anybody with any form of ridges in their brain would like to join the smooth brain society known as the takeover community. I've talked so much about the takeover problem. We don't need to talk about it that much more in this video, but you know who you are. You're dumb. If you like to go in circles over and over again, blocking emergency vehicles, and you think that's cool, then I don't know what to tell you. That there is a single Dodge vehicle in the country that is paid off. Okay, that's hilarious. I mean, Dodge right now has a very strange reputation, right? First, Stellantis isn't doing so hot. The people who own the brand Dodge, and also Chrysler, Jeep, you know, you're not stupid. You probably know this. But at the same time, since they have this reputation of the takeover problem and being stolen all the time, the Charger does have this very bizarre reputation of not having legitimate ownership, which is hard to describe and not make fun of. But yeah, that's just hysterical. Eric says more horsepower equals more fun. I think especially when we're younger getting into cars, I think we associate horsepower with fun. We want that extremely visceral, crazy adrenaline acceleration that you get. And don't get me wrong, I was definitely in that camp when I was younger. They're dramatic, they're crazy, they're intense, but they're also more unreliable. They're a lot more to keep up with. And at the same time, they're very unusable on the street. And I always never wanted to hear that, right? I never wanted to hear that a high horsepower car was unusable on the street until I drove something with high horsepower and extremely long gearing, which was ideal for racing, but not great for you. That's why when you push a low horsepower car completely to the limit, it's really fun. You just get to use all of it. There's a reason why the GR86 and the Miata are so popular, because you just get to use all of it all the time. What stage is that, bro? I see this particularly in the German car community, because when I review cars, especially the VWs, they're like, stage 2, tune, intake, exhaust. I'm like, what does a stage mean? And it seems like every aftermarket brand stages are all different, right? So the stages, I've never quite understand. Just tell me what's done to the car. At the end of the day, say you got an intake, exhaust, bigger turbo, whatever, just tell me what's done to it. Wearing a seatbelt traps you in an accident instead of letting you eject to safety. So I've heard people joke about this, but I've also had multiple people try to convince me it's true. Wear your seatbelt. Wear your freaking seatbelt. Much more likelihood of surviving a car accident with the seatbelt than without it. And you know what I always tell people if they don't want to wear the seatbelt in the car with me? I always say, hey, if you go through my windshield, you're buying me a new one. There's a reason why seatbelts have caught on. They work 99% of the time. Okay, one just came in that I had to turn my camera back on before I started editing. Once had a guy tell me that the VW R32 and the Nissan R32 use the same motor. They're both 6 cylinders. And that's all they have in common. That's it. Please do not ever say that again for your own sake. Jacob says, LS swap the world. Absolute garbage engines. Okay, I wouldn't go so as far to call the LS a garbage engine. To me, the LS is an ideal swap because of many reasons. It's quick horsepower overall, the aftermarket is absolutely massive, and their physical size is ideal. I actually saw a photo the other day of somebody had like a 1.8 liter Miata engine next to an LS3 crate engine. They're not that much different in size physically. So that's why it just makes sense that they're used so much. If a lot more motors like the Coyote, for example, were a physically smaller motor, I think you'd see a lot more of them. You can still at least go to the parts store and they'll probably have what you need. However, I am not a big believer in me going to a junkyard and buying a 5.3 and throwing it in the car and it'll last forever. In my personal experience, that has never been the case with what I have witnessed. At least if they want it to last a while. I have seen some 5.3s get a turbo thrown on it and then they go do their thing and then they break. The Honda Prelude should have been rear-wheel drive. Infuriates me every time. And then the next comment was, the Honda Prelude should have been rear-wheel drive. You're not just wrong, you're stupid. Okay, that movie was terrible, by the way. Get in the bathtub. I'm actually one of those people. I think if the 5th gen specifically was rear-wheel drive, it could have competed with like the S14 or something along those lines, and probably would be a drift missile nowadays. I think it physically kind of looks like a car that would be rear-wheel drive, but it's not. But I like the 5th gens, I still think they're cool. Roll racing for big money is stupid. Way too many variables and arguments. I sort of agree with this. That's so dependent on if you could hear somebody saying 1, 2, 3. Are they saying 1, 2, 3, go? Are they honking 3 times? Can you even hear over the 2 motors maybe brake boosting if they have big horsepower? I get that argument actually. There is no replacement for displacement. Some guy in a 305 IROC Camaro. That's actually a really good example. It's weird when you meet people from the generation before you or even 2 generations before you where their perception of fast really never changed, which that is rare nowadays. I think most people know better, but I would say 10 years ago, I would meet a ton of people like that. You'd see like a B-Series swapped EK Civic that was still naturally aspirated smack an old IROC Z or whatever, and the old guy just wouldn't be able to accept the fact that they got beat by a 1.8 or whatever. One of the fondest memories I have of some nighttime shenanigans was a friend of mine had an EG hatch, very sleeper looking. They ended up racing, I think, a Capri, and the Capri didn't want to race them, and they got in a big argument, and the guy said there ain't no replacement for displacement, and my friend said, yes, there is. It's called technology. I was like, that's a mic drop right there. We have technology. Loud equals sounds good. Yeah, that's something I think you just typically grow out of as a car enthusiast. At first, you feel like your car has to be really loud, really droney, very dramatic. And the older you get, the more resonators and mufflers you tend to add. It's just kind of how it goes. Corvette has a special differential that makes it handle well. So the rear wheels can spin in opposite directions to keep the car on the road.
Come on now, dog.
I feel like I just don't even need to make fun of that one. That's just bad. I've seen some crazy technological conspiracy theories from Corvette owners, but they specifically need to be wearing the flag Corvette flag hat. Hector says V8 American muscle are better and more reliable than JDM. Now that's a fallacy. All that American has to offer is power and muscle. Yes, I get the new ZR1 is amazing, but we have to be realistic. That's a $180,000 car. When it comes to the average car, there's no match for JDM. Price, quality, reliability. In terms of reliability, Coyote Mustang greater than BMW Supra, sorry, that got me, Subaru STI, Nissan Z. As somebody who has personally owned both, in my experience, it was much, much cheaper to maintain the Coyote V8 over all of my other platforms. Now, I've never owned a modern JDM car, to be fully transparent, but I do own the legacy ones, JZ, K-Series, that kind of stuff. And when it comes to power per dollar, American is unmatched. It's the cheapest way to make horsepower. I will debate that till the end. It really just depends on what you're looking for. Personally, I've seen more JDM cars fail more frequently, and I've seen more German cars have to go back to the dealership a lot more than the American cars. But that's just my experience. It could be completely different. And in the over 1,000 project cars that I have reviewed, the only ones that have ever broken during me reviewing them with mechanical sympathy were all JDM cars. Just a thought. Rear-wheel drive is faster than front-wheel drive. I mean, it depends on the situation. I would say 9 times out of 10, yes. There's a reason why Porsche, for example, doesn't really use front-wheel drive. There's a reason why most performance cars don't use front-wheel drive unless it's a hot hatch or an old Honda or something like that. Now in drag racing, debatable. Most of the time, the rear-wheel drive car or all-wheel drive car is going to have an advantage. But if you're a Speed Factory Civic, trapping at 217 miles an hour at the drag race, yeah, you're obviously faster. Typically what I've seen in straight line speed is that the front wheel drive cars will typically lose in the first half, but they'll back half on the other end, right? Typically what I've seen. Real enthusiasts drive blah blah. Real enthusiasts drive whatever the they want. To me, that's always been a pet peeve of mine. When I first started going to car meets and car events, I would always hear that. Well, a real car guy or a real enthusiast, like what defines a real car person? I mean, it's like you could be a diehard enthusiast or just somebody who finds cars interesting. It's a spectrum, as they say. Some might say I'm on a spectrum, but let's not talk about that. But at the end of the day, like what you like, man. I don't really care when people are like, oh, real car guy. It's stupid. It's just dumb. Saying your car sucks while not even having a license despite being able to get one. Yeah, that's one of my personal favorites. I always could never stand the people who talk trash about other people's cars, especially if it was a nice car. Like, especially if it was a nice car. And they're like, that's not how I would have built it. That's not what I would have done. I'm like, I'm sorry, sir. So what do you have? Or talking trash to somebody about a car being slow when they don't even own a car. That was always a big pet peeve of mine as well. There's gonna be no production internal combustion cars by 2030. Yeah, that's not gonna happen. Just not gonna happen. It's not feasible to happen. Not to mention, Porsche actually just said that they're redeveloping combustion engines again, because the EV demand is so low. There is a lot of car brands still leaning into EV stuff, and by the way, there are some EVs I have been in that have absolutely blown my mind. However, always gonna be a combustion person. That's just me. That rally car drivers are not aliens. That's probably accurate. Unbelievable reflexes, unbelievable skill. It's pretty unmatched. You could even debate that rally car drivers maybe are the best drivers in the world. What's your thought on that one? Who do you think is the best motorsport driver? Curious about that one. Put it in the comment section. Built, not bought. I'm old and busy. I have money, not time. You do you, I do me. I agree. I agree with that. Some people just don't have the time to fully build their own car or even work on their own car, and I understand that. And the older you get, the more you kind of understand that. The GR86 and Miata aren't sports cars. Yeah, that's the dumbest take of all in all of these. This is the best, not worst, but Mustangs and the people who drive them are gross. Then I must be disgusting. Sorry, guys. Must be stank from over here. Here's one. F1 ain't a sport. It's just people dressing up. NASCAR is where it's at. Yeah, no, I disagree. F1 is one of the most taxing motorsports on the body due to the G-forces. There's a reason why they do that crazy neck training, why they have wide boy necks. And they have to do breathing techniques and everything very much like a fighter jet. But it's just different. NASCAR drivers have to have stamina and endurance as well because they're in the car a really long time. Also, the fascinating thing for NASCAR for me is the communication. Since everybody's so close all the time in NASCAR, and it's a more brutal sport with contact and things of that nature, and you're having to deal with dirty air, stuff like that, constantly being talked to by their strategists in the pits. So for me, the driving wouldn't be as difficult, it'd be multitasking for me. It'd be basically trying to listen while also communicating back while also going almost 200 miles an hour. That's what would probably get me without practice. The Carolina squat looks good. No. Anyway, that's enough smooth brain for me today. What was your favorite one of all down in the comment section below? And what's the worst car argument you've ever heard? Let me know. And on that note, I typically upload about 3 times a week. Make sure to keep an eye out. And do me a favor, guys. The algorithm is very brutal to me. So please hit that like button and also the notification bell if you like more videos. And I'll see you guys next time. Take it easy. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.